Well, it's nice to be back. I honestly missed this a little more than I expected to. But I guess that's a good thing. Well, I went on vacation. Fortunately, that was an opportunity we got to have. We went to North Topsail Island, which is near Camp Lejeune. I grew up my whole life close to there, and we always called it Camp Lejeune. And then it was sometime around having all those commercials saying, if you worked on Camp Lejeune, and I was like, they're saying it weird. But apparently that's actually the way that you're supposed to say it. So whatever. Yeah, we went to North Topsail Island, which is just Topsail Island, but the north part of it. I grew up in Pender County, and there is a Pender County portion of Topsail Island, not officially called South Topsail. It's an interesting little place up there. I hadn't been there at all on the island in probably 20 years. It was different than what I remember, just the layout of the island itself. So it was kind of cool to be able to start putting that all together in my head and see what was going on there. But we had a good time, me and my wife and my daughter, who is fearless, loves being in the water, just wants to be in it all the time. Unfortunately, right in North Topsail, the sand doesn't just gently go out, right? It just, it's a pretty big cutoff for a 3.5-year-old, at least. I had to get her to be okay with, like, all right, I'm just going to carry you out there, because most the days that she was there, the surf was pretty big for her. Once we were out there, of course, she could have her little floaty thing, which she didn't want to wear at first, because in the pool, she doesn't really like to wear it anymore because she's comfortable swimming, but she's not very buoyant yet. So, whatever. But in an ocean, yeah, you needed to wear it because you're not there yet. But she figured that out quickly. But still very fearless, wanted to just be out there. The last day we were out there, her and I, it was starting to get pretty big it's too big for my wife, which she doesn't really like big surf anyway, so that was pretty quick to come about, and I was like, all right, you go in, I got her. But even then, she was still just like happy to be out there. I had to keep convincing her to get away from the breaking surf because she would get smashed. But I felt in control of the situation, even though they were pretty big. And, you get those couple of times where you have to go under. She found that to be awesome. So I'm very grateful that I have a little surf buddy, we tried surfing, but waves weren't quite right for surfing. But a little beach buddy, I guess, would be a better word for that. So yeah, that's what we did this past week. And I know I've had some time away from doing this. I always seem to need a little bit of a vacation at the end of my vacation. I forgot to turn that light up. Still getting used to just being down here, and we literally got back yesterday afternoon and had just enough time to go to the grocery store, get groceries, get home, make dinner, and then we were all exhausted. The Airbnb we stayed in, the bed was very, very stiff. Almost felt as if I was sleeping on the floor. Wasn't quite that bad, but it was pretty stiff. It was getting towards the end of the vacation, and I never want it to end, of course, but I wanted to be home. So That seems to be a pretty common occurrence. I want to be back in my bed. I want to be back in my house and whatever, but I don't want to just go back to real life. We did Friday to Friday, which is a pretty good way to do it, because then you get back on a Friday and at least you have Saturday and Sunday to kind of reacclimate back to your life before needing to go to work or whatever it is you need to do. It seems to work for us. So, little life hack there for you guys who can afford to do that. Friday to Friday. Yeah, we've always seemed to need a vacation after our vacation. It's like, whether you're visiting family or whatever, or even if you're traveling, going international, or just to somewhere not within a few hours driving, it's like, I need some time to recover just from the trip. And then also just a week of, for me at the beach, I'm at a beach and I want a beer, and I had a few beers and gained a few pounds, ate some food, but now I need a few days to just kind of work all that back off. I actually decided that I'm going to take all of August off from any alcohol, or longer maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I did that earlier this year in April and most of May, and I really enjoyed it, and it wasn't difficult at all. Just has to shift kind of my mindset. Like, mindset is, we go out to dinner or we go whatever, and it's nice to have a little glass of something or a beer or whatever, but I felt really good not doing that, so I'm going to try and do it again, and maybe it stick around even longer. Who knows? I definitely don't need alcohol in any way. It is fun sometimes, but it's not a necessity in any of my life. It actually just makes everything a little bit more difficult, because then you have to recover from drinking that alcohol, even if it's like a glass or two, or whatever. One drink will throw off my whole body battery. I have a Garmin watch, and it does statistics, whatever smartwatches tend to do, and just one beer or one glass of something will set it completely off to be basically bottomed out. For me, I lived on the bottom out portion of that scale, unless everything is just running perfectly, which is very rarely. The week before we left, my daughter had a cold, and then of course, like a few days before we left, I then got that cold, and that kind of stuck most of the time. I still have a little bit of congestion, not bad, but a little bit, and yeah, so it just seems like never is everything just running smoothly. I'm always fighting something off or needing to do something that wears it down. And then when I'm not doing that, I have a drink or two, and then that kills it too. So, whatever. I'm doing it all. I'm doing half of it to myself. The other half is just life, I guess. But yeah. Anyway, I recently watched a podcast that I was talking to my wife about. I highly recommend it. I think it's Shaka Singhor is how you pronounce it. A dude from somewhere in Chicago, one of the sides of Chicago that is a rougher neighborhood, and he got himself into some trouble and admits it fully, but he also has reformed himself in a 17-year prison sentence for murdering someone. He spent 7 or 8 of those years in solitary confinement. And in that time, instead of letting himself go crazy, he was fortunate enough to be able to read, literate, and actually reformed himself. It was a very good podcast listening to him. But his kind of takeaway from everything, at least what I took away from his statements, was gratitude, which is something that my wife has definitely done over the past few years and has hinted at me doing. But, you know, one person telling me something is just a person saying something. But when more than one person, when it gets into my head from more than one person, then I'm like, maybe I should think about that. So something that I've been doing, not on a consistent basis since then, but sort of. But it needs to be a little bit more consistent, but it's hard for me to be consistent with anything. So we're doing this, right? I'm talking about it right now. So it's a start. But yeah, my gratitude obviously first was that I have this kid who is fearless and wants to do stuff as my little beach buddy, and is willing to try almost anything. It's crazy that I just wouldn't expect her to be so open to do anything. But if I say, let's do something, she's basically right there with me. Which is awesome. It is a little bit nerve-wracking, obviously, because like with the beach, it's if she would have just ran into the beach and gotten hit by one of those waves, it would have changed her perspective a lot. So I did shelter her from that pain, of course. But I don't shelter her from the knowledge that there is consequences to things. Like, she has taken huge falls, and she just gets up and looks at me, and we give a little thumbs up, and she runs on. So she's tough. But I mean, there's limits, of course. You get smashed by a huge wave, you're going to get hurt, and it's going to hurt, and that can change you. So, you know, while she's 3.5, you know, shelter her from that. And then when she turns 5 or 6, you know, you're going to get hit by a wave, and it's going to suck. But at that time, you'll have experiences knowing, oh, it can be fun, and it can also suck. So, yeah, that I'm grateful for having that little light, even though, you know, I know sometimes lights can be dimmed, even though I hope that does not happen for her. But you gotta know, eventually the world also has pain, which she knows. She's not dumb for a 3.5-year-old. She definitely knows falling down hurts, and, you know, things like that. So she'll get there. But yeah, she is super open to doing basically anything that I am interested in doing. And, you know, I'm interested in doing anything she's interested in. I keep repeating that word, but so whatever. But yeah, she's fearless, which is a really awesome trait, I think, to have. I'd rather it be that than the opposite, for sure. So thankful for that. And I'm thankful that I have a person who, my wife, who loves and accepts me for my weird quirks and traits that I have, even though often it feels like I can get stuck in my head, doing whatever it is I'm doing in my head. And I don't always have the best visual of the people around me, meaning I don't always think about everyone else. I do think about other people, especially the ones I care for, definitely more than others, but I do get kind of hyper focused on things, whatever the thing is. It could be a good thing or a bad thing. It could be whatever. But she seems to accept that and know that and love that, even if it does cause some pain and strife in our lives sometimes. She accepts it and still wants me to be me. So I am grateful for that. And then also I'm grateful for the knowledge and the skill and the financial freedom to be able to do things like this, or, my music or art or whatever it is that I am interested in doing. I feel like I have those opportunities, and I'm glad that I can do them. So, yeah, post-vacation, and gratitudeness. I don't know. Whatever. You figure that out. I don't know what that was supposed to mean, but, whatever. Expressing my gratitude for things. And of course, being able to go on vacation and have that opportunity. Not everybody gets that. So, yeah, I guess that's 4 things. It was a fun week, and I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. So I figured wake up first thing on the morning we get back and just do something, record something. Yeah, I did get to take my guitar with me, and my acoustic guitar, and I played around with GarageBand. It's not too bad, honestly. It's not everything I have here, of course, but for something that is on my phone or iPad that I can just take with me, and if I have a interesting little idea, I can basically do the process that I've laid out here on that as well, with just that device. I did it both on my iPad and my phone, just to play around with both of them. iPad seemed to be a little bit better, actually. Probably because it's just not bogged down with all my stuff on my phone. But yeah, I did record a few little things, so those are cool little ideas that I might play around with here soon. I want to get back into being able to play some stuff and make some music and do some normal things. But yeah, that's probably about it. But as always, there will be a Spotify playlist. It will be vacation themed, probably, because that's all I've really listened to. But yeah, please check that out. And if you're interested in more, I have music on Spotify, Apple, all kinds of stuff. And I'm working on the next one. It's almost there. It's basically there. So I'm excited to share that. But yeah, check that out. Anyway, as always, hope you guys have a good week, and see you.